All right, hello AP Seminar. So I'm going to walk you all through how to format your IRR before you submit it. And I'm going to also show you how to submit everything on AP Classroom so you can make sure that your paper is formatted properly so you don't lose points on that, and to assure that you input it in the system correctly. So let me share my screen. It's wanting me to update. Not going to update now. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to show you in Word and I'm going to show you in Docs, Google Docs, and I'm also going to show you some tips and tricks for both of those. So when you're in Word, I will say that Word is annoying and that it doesn't show us our headers, but just keep in mind that when you want to add your header, which you have to do because you want your hanging indent, you're going to want to go to Insert, which is up here in the top. You're going to click on Headers and Footers. And then once you do that, it'll open up the header options. So I put my title here in the top. Now, something I do want to note, your title in your in your running header rather, which is what we call this, can be different from your actual title of your paper. Specifically, if the title of your paper is super long, you should shorten it so that it doesn't take up 2 lines or go all the way to the end and get kind of confusing with the page number. So make it 1 line that goes, I would say 3/4 of the way across, the maximum. And if it's longer than that, then shorten it. So my title is Formatting an IRR for AP Seminar, but I changed the title to IRR Formatting. Similar title, same thing, but it just makes it a little bit clearer on the top part so it doesn't run across too long. So I add my title and it's left adjusted, meaning it's all the way on the left side of the screen. And my page number is on the right side. Now for Word to insert your page number, all you have to do is click Page Numbers, which is right here. And then it'll tell you which area you want it to place it in. You obviously want to make it in the far right corner. So you're going to want to click on this option, which I already did, and then it will be there in your header for you. Okay, we'll look at the headers in a second, and I'm going to show you how to view it before you export it into PDF to make sure everything is formatted correctly. So now I have my title page, which remember we are combining the AP student or the APA student and the APA professional. So APA student doesn't require a running header. I do because again, papers get shuffled, papers get misplaced, technology does that. And by having a running header with page numbers, it allows us to make sure that it's the same paper for all pages and all pages are in the proper order. So on your title page, nothing is bolded. Everything is the same size, same font size, same spacing. This is centered. So you would make sure everything is centered in alignment, not left adjusted or right adjusted. My title goes in the first line, whatever that may be. A lot of you are using your research question, which is fine, but a title may be better if your research question is super long or your research question is not specific enough to your lens, like it's a little bit different than your lens. You may want to consider making a title that fits your paper, fits your research question, but is a declarative statement or something a little bit more related to your paper. That's up to you. You're not technically graded on your title, but just make sure it's something cohesive to what your paper's about, not necessarily what your group's question is, because you may have written something completely different based on the research you had. On the second line, notice we're not putting any identifying information, so no names will go on this, no high school names will go on this. My names will not my name will not go on this. Nothing that identifies you and the location you're at. That's to assure that our AP readers have zero bias in favor or against you while they're grading. They can't they can't grade it based on the person if they don't know who the person is. So it makes sure that they grade it based on only the content, which is very important. So I put AP Seminar on the second line. I then put the date that we're submitting. So February 2023, you can put the day if you'd like to. Make sure you separate the day and the year with a comma. And then I put my word count below that. So those are the only 4 things that are going to go on the title page itself, besides the running header and the page numbers. I like to space it down a few just to kind of put it a little bit more center. It doesn't have to be perfectly center, so I usually give it 3 enters to get it spaced right there in the center, just to make sure that it looks nice and clean. That's our title page. Now, I have some formatting issues that I have to address here on my own paper. So On the next page, page 2, is where you just start writing. Nothing else goes there. Now your writing header rather, and your page numbers will already be there, so you don't have to add those to each page. But make sure when you're doing your paragraphs, so Word likes to reformat our work, I've learned, because I did have these properly formatted before. And then I played around with a couple other tools and it reformatted again. So make sure that each paragraph, sorry, I have a frog in my throat. Each paragraph is indented first. That makes sure we have spacing between them. I noticed on a couple of us that it either reformatted us or we forgot to put the indents. We have to make sure we indent each and every paragraph. So we've got the first paragraph indented, second paragraph, scroll, 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 third paragraph. Notice I'm continuously writing without any sort of spacing divide. So even between my paragraphs, I don't put an extra space there, an extra enter. You just continue writing. You don't add spaces between your paragraphs. So you don't need to do that because you're double spaced and your indent will indicate a new paragraph. So you don't have to add any more differentiation between your paragraphs for spacing. Now I scroll down to the bottom. The last page or pages, depending on how many you used, will be your references or your works cited page, rather, whatever you call it. APA uses the term references. So I put references. I center adjust it. So that is just like the title page, center adjusted references. Notice it's not bold. Notice it's not underlined, italicized, or anything additional. It's the same size as everything. And then I just go ahead and write all my references below. Make sure you are formatting it properly with APA citation. If when in doubt, double check with a citation machine or some sort of citation tool to assure that you're doing it properly. There are references for you. So I'm actually going to post this website. This is from uscmed.sc, libguides.com. I'm going to post the link for you. So it's the University of South Carolina. Most colleges will have a page like this, by the way, but it does give a cool glimpse of APA citation properly done. With different forms, and most of these forms are the ones you're using anyway. So you can kind of make sure you have all the information correctly. So I'm going to post this link as well. Something I just want to sidebar note, and I think I made the mistake of explaining this to some people incorrectly. If you don't have a date for your web page, which some of you didn't, instead of putting nothing, which is what I instructed you to do, you put ND inside, N.D. Which indicates that there's no date. That way that the reader knows that you looked for a date, but there was no date to be found. It's not that you disregarded that sort of thing. So in your in-text citation, where you would put the date, you would put ND, and in the reference entry, you would put ND as well. And then again, it shows you all the different like parentheticals that you would do. It shows you, it's a really cool added glimpse to make sure your formatting is done properly. So when you're done formatting your paper, hanging indents, let me talk about that. So for Word, it makes indenting actually a little bit easier. So when you've written your reference page or as you're writing it, if you go here to these 3 dots, this is where you'll put your line spacing, but right underneath it says special indent, and it puts hanging indent right there in the first 3 options. So you click on that, and then as you're typing, it'll automatically hanging indent for you. If you've already created your reference sheet, just highlight everything, click the 3 dots, and then select the hanging indent, and it'll format it properly for you. So make sure that when it formats it, that every new reference is left adjusted, and then any second, third, fourth, or fifth line of that reference is indented. Remember, the first line is always left adjusted as far to the left of your paper as possible, and then anything after in that same reference has the indent. That's what differentiates the different references so that we don't have to add spaces between them. So we don't want to do that. We don't have to do that. And so we don't have to number them or put bullet points. So it's the indent that indicates the differentiation. So make sure you're using the hanging indent because that's APA citation. All right, so this is Word. Now I like to, before I print it or before I upload it to a PDF, as I like to see to make sure that everything's formatted, because Word has this weird thing where it puts this page break here, but you're not quite sure if that's the top of the page or if the bottom of the page, and it gets kind of weird with formatting. So what I like to do is I like to go to File. I like to go to Print as though I'm printing. And when I do that, it's going to give me a print preview first. which is going to help me figure out that I've done it correctly. So, okay, there's my running header, there's my page number, there's my title page. I scroll. Okay, everything looks formatted correctly. I scroll. Let me make sure my reference page is on this next page. Perfect, it is. Okay, awesome. I can now download it as a PDF. And again, when you download as a PDF, make sure you open it before you upload it, because sometimes it changes format and we want to fix those before we upload things. My last note, and I'll say it again when I talk about Google Docs, is that when you title your paper, as in what you name it, you also cannot put your name there either. So whatever the file name is cannot have your name. So call it something like IRR Final or IRR 2023 or whatever you want to call it, but it should not have your name. It cannot have your name in it because the AP reader will see the file name. And so we don't want them to get any indicators again that could potentially lead to a bias. All right, so that is how you do it in Word. Again, make sure you check everything before you upload. So as you download a PDF version of it, check to make sure the formatting stay the same. If it didn't, correct it and then do it again. All right, here is how we do the same thing in Google Drive or Google Docs rather. So notice my title page is the same way. I spaced it the same, giving it a couple of enters to center it. I center adjust, so center align rather. Nothing is bolded, nothing is larger than the other items, and I only have those words there. Oh, I forgot my word count. Let me add that now. So word count, we're going to say 1,200 words, even though it's not really 1,200 words. My typing is just gibberish for the point of the video. For your headers in Google Docs, there's not a button. I'm not sure if there's a button. I don't think there is. Oh, there is a button for it. But what I do is I just double click on the top and that opens the header format for you. It makes it a little bit easier. I make sure that my header is there. Also, take note that my header is all capital. Every word in every letter in your header, your running header rather, is all caps. It's not bolded. It's not like the title. It is all capital. For Google, when I'm adding a page number, that is where I have to go to insert, and there is page numbers here. And then they give you options. Now for Google, be careful because the first one of the options is that you don't have a number on the title page. You should, in APA format, have the title page numbered. So make sure you select the one that has the title page numbered. See this 1, 2 instead of blank 1. That is the one you select, and then it will place it there. Now, sometimes Google will, when you do that, put the number right next to your running header. All you got to do is give it a couple spaces, make sure it gets all the way to the right, not too far. It's the end. Oh, I went too far. And there you go. And it stays wherever you put it on one page will stay on all the pages. So now I look again. Here is my writing. Okay, I've got some spacing here. I got to fix that. Okay, it should be all the way to the top of the page. I write. Notice I've got my indentation for each paragraph. Good. No spacing between my paragraphs. Great. All double spaced. Fantastic. I can see, this is why I like Google Docs a little bit better, because I can see my running header on each page as I scroll through, which makes me a little bit more confident that everything is formatted correctly. I scroll, and now I get to my reference page, same as before. Oh, notice it's not formatted correctly because it's missing its hanging indent. So for Google, what you do for that, so again, before I get there, references is the title of the last page. It's centered, it's not bolded, it's just regular size, but it's centered on the page. Double spacing on all of it, no extra spacing between anything. I now highlight all of my references because I want to add a hanging indent. I would go to Format. I would go to Align and Indent. I would then scroll down to Indentation Options and then ignore all of this up here. I would then add Hanging Indent, Special Indent. Keep the formatting it gives you. It automatically should give you 0.5, which is what you should have. If it changes it, put it back to 0.5 and then apply. And there you go. It automatically does the hanging indent for you, so you don't have to worry about the spacing and the weirdness that comes when you try to do it by yourself. So now my paper is formatted correctly, and I'm good to go. All right. So whichever you are doing, whether it's Google Docs or whether it's Word, make sure that when you, again, titling it, you don't put your name on it. It's just IRR or IRR final or IRR 2023. No names go on there. But when you upload it, we only upload PDF versions. So whichever you choose, you will download a PDF version of it. So I could use Google Docs. I would do it here, download PDF document. In Word, I would go to File. I would go to Save As, download as PDF. Okay, so you have your PDF version, and now you're going to upload it into your dashboard. Now, keep in mind, my digital portfolio looks much different than yours because I have a teacher account, so it does look a little bit different, but it's fairly similar in some regards. So when you get to your digital portfolio, which you will get through your AP Classroom, you go to the course, and then it's usually the last option there to click on Open Digital Portfolio. This is what I want you guys to take note of. So when you first enter it, it's going to be on the main page, which is like the class summary. So it'll look like, I believe it's this, where it has EBSCO and everything. This is where students get very confused and will make a mistake that is not impossible to correct, but difficult to correct. It's annoying to correct, rather, if I'm being honest. So you are working right now on PT2, which is the team project and presentation. That is the item we're working on. We are not yet working on the individual research-based essay presentation. I know it's confusing because you're thinking IRR, individual research report. It looks like that's what we're putting it into. It's not. We are entering everything in the team project and presentation section for now. So click on team project presentation, and now you'll see IRR. That's where you're going to upload your IRR. It does not go in the individual research based essay presentation. Do not put it there because that's a totally different paper. And if you final submit there, there's a process I have to go through to get it out. Otherwise, it's going to submit the wrong thing and you're going to get a very low grade on a much higher weighted essay. So team project presentation is where we go. Team project and presentation, and then individual research report. On your page, there will be a place to upload. You'll see it'll ask you to upload documents or upload your performance task or IRR. I'm not sure how it's worded for you, and you will upload it. Now, you're not submitting it yet when you upload it. You're just simply uploading it. It's going to ask you a couple questions. It's going to make sure you format it correctly. And then when you get there, what it'll do is it'll upload in the system, and then it's going to give you an originality report. It's going to actually run it through Turnitin on the spot. So I'm going to talk about that here in a second. So once you uploaded it, you'll see the document, and then it will say view originality. So you'll view your originality. With Turnitin, it should pop up something like this. Depending on how many you've submitted, because you can submit multiple times, right? Just to make sure it's all correctly formatted. So if you make an error, you have to resubmit again. You can't adjust it in the system, and you can't delete anything you've uploaded. But don't worry, they only look at the final submission. So they're not going to look at all of the many, many uploads that you do. You'll get a similarity report or a similarity score. Now, keep in mind, your percentage is not super significant at this point. 50%, 40%, 30%, 60% similarity is fine because this is a research report where you are regurgitating information from other people. The important part is citation. And so that's why we open the report. So you'll click on your similarity. It will open your Turnitin, your feedback. I'm using a student from last year that did pretty well on this. And it's going to highlight all the things that showed similarity. So here's why we do this. One, we want to see that they didn't mistakenly think something was not attributed, right? So things that are going to get flagged are titles of main things, right? So deferred action for childhood arrivals, DACA, that's definitely something that's been talked about in other places. And so that's definitely going to get flagged, right? But it's not you taking an idea for yourself. You're talking about something that's been discussed before. Students, experiences, all of those have been discussed before. So that's not you plagiarizing. That is simply you saying information that's out there in the world. This is where it gets important, is when you're talking in your paper. So when you see things flagged in your paper, you always want to make sure that after you've talked about it, you have a citation, or just after it. So all this highlighted in green, perfect. Here's Berkeley, awesome. So that's cited. So they know that, yeah, I used someone else's information, but I gave them credibility, or I gave them citation to make sure that we know that it's their thoughts, not my thoughts. Same thing here, it's highlighted in blue, and it says Benenson. As I keep scrolling, I look to check to make sure. So these are all, this is for you to make sure that you've cited correctly. I have had many students who have looked at this and have been like, oh my God, I forgot to put the parenthetical citation. I have to go back and do that. So it helps you to kind of checkpoint to make sure you've done all the citations correctly so that you can get all the points on rubric row 5 and make sure that everything is good to go. So you scroll through, you look at everything. The second thing you want to reference and Turnitin is, yes, the parentheticals, but also to make sure that everything that's gotten parenthetically cited is also referenced here in the works cited page, or your reference page rather. So you'll look and see, okay, I had Benenson, there's Benenson, okay, he's there. And then I keep scrolling through and I find anything that's not cited or is cited, and I make corrections if I have to, or I say, oh, perfect, I did everything amazingly. But that's what this helps us to do. And normally it will highlight it in the same color to make it easier for you, but sometimes Turnitin finds information that is the same in different ways, and so it won't highlight it the same. So don't be stressed if the highlighted colors are different. Just make sure that everything matches a citation in both the in-text and in the works cited page, or the references page rather. Call it references. Last year I didn't make them do APA, I made them do MLA. So we call it references in APA, not works cited. Once you're satisfied with your Turnitin and you've gotten everything corrected, you can close it. And then there's going to be a final submission. So you'll see in your document, it'll say something like final submit, or there's going to be a button next to your final upload. You'll click on it. It's then going to ask you a series of questions. The first thing it's going to do is going to have you open the document, the PDF, to look at it, to make sure it's formatted correctly for one final time, because again, they want to make sure you catch any mistakes before you final upload. Then it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to submit? Are you saying everything's original? There's a couple of questions you'll see. You have to check the boxes. It's going to ask you, did you check to make sure your paper's formatted? It's going to ask you all those things. So make sure you do them. Don't just check. But go through and look at what they ask you. Check the box if you've done it. And then at the very end, it's going to say, ready to final submit. You'll click it, and then your IRR will be finally submitted. Okay, so a couple things to just to wrap up this whole video. One, make sure you are formatting everything correctly within your respective Word document, whatever that is, Word or Google Docs. Have your hanging indent, or have your running headers, page numbers, proper title page, proper spacing, and then your reference page formatted correctly with your hanging indents. Make sure you don't have any names on it whatsoever, school, teacher, or yourself. Make sure that includes the title, so no names and titles either. When you have it formatted correctly, you will save it as a PDF. It gets uploaded into your AP digital portfolio, the team, project, and presentation section, not the individual research-based essay and presentation. Individual research report is where you upload it. Look at the Turnitin report. When you're satisfied, you will click Final Submit. If you have any questions, please let me know and I will walk you through it. Please don't, if you don't know what you're doing, don't just go for it. Ask a question first, because we want to make sure we submit everything and you get credit for all the hard work that you did. All right. Again, ask questions if you're confused about things, and I will answer your questions as quickly as I can.